What is going on, everybody? I am Jason Roslin, and I am here for another Reignmakers report. This time, we're going to focus a little bit more on the PGA Tour. Last time I was here, I talked with the Metaverse HQ guys, and we had a great football breakdown. But I'm bringing my co-host Byron back in for this episode. We're going to break down the FedEx Cup playoffs. We've got so much going on. The new side set that that DraftKings came out with last week. And Byron, let's start the show off right away by talking about that. Man, what a response! I mean, I liked it. Don't get me wrong. Like I was like, oh, this is going to be really cool. I'm wondering how this is going to be received. Well, man, it took off. It flew. It put DraftKings to the top of the crypto world for a couple of days. I'm showing you on the screen here. I mean, what support? So I got to ask you, how much did you get in if you did? And if you didn't get in, what held you back from it?
I have not got in because I'm just trying to make my money back now. What cards I have is like, I'm just trying to keep riding that through and just hoping I can make my money back. And that tells you I haven't necessarily met my threshold for the year just yet. But
yeah. This is an interesting conversation right off the top. Did you model it out like I did, like how much you expected to invest, how much you expected to make back each week?
Correct. I did, and then I went rogue and started buying way too many cards. And now I'm like in a situation where, Mrs. Maniac's looking at the bank account and we're like, ooh, why is the DraftKings getting, a credit every odd week early in the season? But it's okay. We're gonna have Max Homer doing some wonderful things for us this week, and we'll see what happens. But
and we got a little bit of a benefit that we're gonna get some utility next year. So one of those bink of next season or two could foot the bill, for the type of maybe under, or if you got into a little bit of situation like you and I did where we love to buy cards and buy packs. Totally understand. I did get involved. I loved this side set. I'm not going to lie to you. And let's go into just a little bit more detail about it. For the people, first off, came that the top 100 players after the Open Championship, these sold out, by the way. So I'm just going through it really quickly. They came in top 100. There's gated contests for the next 3 weeks, 50K, 100K, and 200K, ending at the Tour Championship. Let's quickly go over the payout information for this week. We've got 5K up top, 2K to second, $1,000 to third, so a nice flat payout in this structure. The next week, we bump up to $20,000 for first, $10,000 per second, so some really good prize pools, especially given the fact that we still have our normal Reignmaker slates going attached to it. And then lastly, of course, we've got the Tour Championship. First place, $50K. So the biggest first place prize other than the Reignmaker World Championship that they're going to duel out for Reignmakers. So really cool aspect to it. There's a couple of ways to go about it, of course. You can look at like just low serial numbers. You can look at trying to go against the grain with your lineup. So I will tell you, I opened up like 8 packs or so, 8 or 9. I don't think I got to the 10 mark. If I did and you're watching this show, let me know. Call me out on it at DFS Golfer 23. I will take the heat, Byron. But nonetheless, I got what I would consider about 4/5 of the optimal way there. I pulled a Rory. I pulled a Rahm. I pulled a Cantlay. And then I got a Wyndham Clark and a Brian Harman. So I was like, 4/5 of the way there. Of those names, who would you invest in this week knowing that the Tour Championship is the highest allocation, right? So I'm looking at the 3-week run rate. Who's kind of at the top of your list? And it can be applied for this, or it can be applied just to the regular set.
Yeah, I think Rahm is still, if you just think of East Lake, I think of Rahm, Rory, and Cantlay.
Yeah.
Outside of Scotty, obviously, I think those 4 would be my 4 guys I'd think would be pretty optimal going into the next 3 events. And I was lying to you. I actually bought 1 pack. I went and double checked. I went rogue and bought myself 1 pack, and I have a Rahm now. So I do have a Rahm for the week, and looking forward to it.
You got a Rahm. I mean, a Rahm itself will pay for that pack, my friend. That's going.
I know. Exactly. I got some Keegans, some Harmons, some Strokers. So it's not looking too shabby for me, but I do like those 4 guys I just mentioned there for the top of the board for sure.
Yeah, and you can see here that ROM card going for roughly around $110. So I do, it created such a nice secondary market. And we're going to go through, of course, this week as well, a little bit of a preview. But we're also going to talk about guys that I will be focusing on, especially if I see these low serial numbers come out. I've got about 15 names, Byron, that I'm really comfortable with, that I expect to be there in the Tour Championship, regardless of what happens the next 2 weeks. And of course, we're going to go through a little bit of that. So we'll just go into it a little bit this week. We've got of course, the FedEx St.Jude Championship. It's played at TPC Southwind. Man, it's been there forever. Long time, 1989, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
I mean, geez, that's when I was born, basically. Well, that's when my wife was born. I was born a couple of years before. Nonetheless, it's been there for quite a while. So we've got a ton of information on it, Byron. Fairways are still hard to hit. Greens are pretty hard to hit. But scoring is pretty low.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's also, I saw a lot of more penalty strokes associated with this golf course than normal.
Yep.
And, it's that classic situation where if you're playing well, you're going to score. And if you're not, you're going to suck it up, So you got to have your guys playing good golf entering the week or having played good golf here before. And, we'll see. It's going to be fun because we've got 70 of the best golfers on the PGA Tour essentially now playing this week, right? So we don't have any duds. We don't have any, it's all just studs basically. So it's going to be a fun week, and it makes that optimal lineup a little more interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sure does, especially when all 70 are playing. Now, also another wrinkle here this week for the FedEx St.Jude Championship is that it is no cut. First time that we've had that in the playoff scenario. Of course, it was a WGC event for the previous 2 years before it became a playoff event. Now, again, just top 70. All 70 are going to play. So I looked at last year's leaderboard. Adam Hadwin, man, he must have gotten so drunk on the weekends because he scored 15 points, 15 points lower than the next guy who gave him 68. But outside of Adam Hadwin, the discrepancy between raw points scored from first all the way to 68 was 25 points, Byron. So positional points really matters, it seems, this week.
Yeah, but also at the same time, don't you think that just targeting guys that make a ton of birdies, they're going to get 4 straight days of birdieing, right? So even if you don't necessarily top 10, you can still top 20 and top 10 points it, but those will be, select individuals. So we'll have to, navigate our way through that. But also Adam Hadwin and champagne bottles and alcohol he's just making a name for himself now. He needs to go to a meeting or something, I think.
Yeah, or a sponsorship. Just go that route and go all in with it. Hopefully it's not too much of a problem. No, Adam's a good guy, and his wife is quite a follow on Twitter. If you're into the golf world and don't follow her, you've got to. But hey, our dog even agrees with us. I love it here. So in any case, we've got, of course, a couple of guys that we want to go over at the top. Rory and Scotty right now are kind of in their own place, but Jon Rahm kind of backdooring a second place finish there at the Open Championship. Maybe that does get the ball rolling. He has yet to win the FedEx Cup, so maybe this is the year that he gets it done.
Yeah, no, sorry, Mrs. Maniacs just entered the building and now things are chaos. So I didn't even really know what we were talking about, yeah?
Yeah. So I was just mentioning that basically Rory and Scotty had kind of separated themselves for quite some time, but Rahm, with that finish at the Open, may have gotten his juices back. He's yet to win the FedEx. So maybe he's a little bit motivated to get it done and then leave for live. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
He's not leave for live tour, but
dude, Rahm's having his worst strokes gained off the tee season of his career this year, and he's still gaining like 0.6 off the tee per round. So his floor is just nuts. And, we've seen him play nicely here before. He grades out as number 1 in my model for the week. So I'm all in on Rahm. I've been on him. And hopefully now that he's had some time to relax, he's probably worked on that driver a bit because he's too good of a driver to play as bad with it as he has been recently. So I think he's going to be a sneaky guy this week. I don't think people are going to be. It's so funny how that big 2 has changed all year, hasn't it, Jason? Like we've had Rahm and Scotty, and now it's Scotty and Rory, and maybe at some point it's going to be Rory and Rahm. You never know. But I love Rahm as like a mini underdog this week for sure.
So if you're buying one of the 3 for this, call it this FedEx Cup playoff side set, I'm going to roll off a couple of prices for you. I know that they differ a little bit when you go outside of the playoff set, But for this playoff set, we've got Scotty's floor. Oh, I'm so sorry. I just hit my mic. I apologize to everybody. I'm sure that was loud. I'm so sorry. Anyway, we've got Scotty coming in around 127, Rahm at 110, and Rory at 94. Based on total strokes gained, I actually think, and given Rory's success at Eastlake, Rory's my first buy in this regard. I mean, we're saving 25% basically off of the Scotty price.
Yeah, that makes no sense to me. I would probably go Scotty, Rory, Rahm right now in pricing, and to hear that he's at least $10 cheaper than Rahm, that makes like a beautiful buy. I'd say that's some serious value there for sure, and he's also played kind of nicely at Eastlake in the past. I mean, sorry, at TPC Southwind, so he's definitely got a shot at playing some good golf this week.
Yeah, and as you were giving your tidbit there, I was looking up two other guys that are ranked very much toward the top. Obviously, are the 4th and 5th guys on the odds board this week, and they are half of the price of McIlroy and a third of the price of Scheffler. I understand the win equity that comes from these three guys, but
yes,
we've seen Xander really compete at Eastlake. I mean, he won it outright. If you were using a non-handicap score, he won it. He became very close the year before that, and that was without the handicap score. So who's the next buy outside of the top three for, say, this FedEx Cup scenario? Maybe not so much this week, but at least the long term that you think is going to be in that probable winning lineup come Eastlake.
Yeah, that's just such a Xander thing to do, is to win the non-handicapped leaderboard, right? Like that's what tilts me about Xander a little bit. So I'll be going with Cantley. I just love what he's been up to off the tee. I think driving is going to be imperative around you. Just get that first domino falling in the right direction.
Yep.
He's top 10 in accuracy, Patrick Cantley, and he hits it pretty much above average on distance. So love what he's going to be getting up to at this golf course, especially with the necessity of hitting the fairways. And then we'll just see what he can get up to. If that putter cooks and we get some playoff Patty Ice, we're in business, baby. I've got an outright on Patrick Cantley this week, and it's going to be, I'm all in on him.
Still a major championship problem, but this isn't a major championship here this week. No. This is a PGA Tour event that I expect Patrick Cantley to be there. Also struggling in maybe sold his soul to win the Claret Jug a couple of years ago, because he hasn't come close really since. I shouldn't say that. He lost on a playoff to Ricky Fowler, but that was certainly not on a major championship. Talking about Colin Morikawa, he's kind of in that next tier down. He's coming in around $30 in that playoff set. He is one where I like him for this week. He's in a precarious position, however. He's ranked right 24th, so he's going to need to play good the next 2 weeks to get to Eastlake. So are you nervous about him making it, or do you think this week sets up well enough where he'll put in the effort this week, and regardless of next week's happenings, he'll probably be there?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this course kind of suits him, with the accuracy off the tee being, again, that key factor for me. Maybe you just grab him. If you don't have him now, you could potentially sneak him in and then use him this week and then get rid of him probably at a slightly decreased price, but it will most likely still go up if he plays well this week, right? So we can kind of fade him after this week, and hopefully that pays off for us. But I would expect him to play nicely at this kind of a golf course and see where he goes from there. But I just don't have faith in Colin right now outside of a major.
Yeah, I mean, here you can see, 3 starts here at this golf course where you said accuracy matters more. I totally agree with you. Yeah. Good iron play typically does well. 3 straight top 26s in his 3 starts at TPC Southwind. So interesting there. John Rahm, a couple of good starts, but John Rahm, when he's playing well, plays well anywhere, let's be honest. Yeah. We'll come back to this in a little bit, but there is the name that is sitting at number 3 that I want to discuss with you, because here's a guy that can get really hot. I saw some really good things last week. Sam Burns, he was on a lot of the featured group coverage. I had him in a couple of my Reignmaker lineups where he provided a good return. I'm a buyer of Sam Burns right now. He's 20th and 2nd here in his 2 starts at TPC Southwind. We've seen him be a course guy at the Valspar. $20 at that playoff set. Is it too expensive for you? I see you kind of a little apprehensive about it.
I'm not a Sam Burns guy, particularly if you're just looking at his column on the strokes gained approach. It's red everywhere. It's just too inconsistent, even though last week he played better, but it's frustrating from his perspective. And I understand he's a great putter, but off the tee, you know, the accuracy concerns me a little bit for Burnsy. You know, things can go a little rogue there, but I don't know. I'm impartial. You know, like if you like Sam Burns, grab him. If you don't, you know, be with me on that side of things there.
Yeah, yeah. I think what I like about him is the upside there with the putter. I think that is a difference maker. And if we see the positive strokes gain come around, like we did last week, like I said, I watched him play. The irons were definitely getting there. He's always going to be airing off the tee. That's kind of his thing. But when he's on, he's on. So I'm going to stick with Burns here in this little bit of a run. I would certainly be in a position where I wanted another fifth guy. If I needed to go to the marketplace to buy one at $20, I think Burns gives you a ton of upside. He's ranked like 14th or 15th in FedEx. Let's go give you the exact number before I lie to you guys. I do not like to lie. 19th. So a good start this week, say something inside of the top 20, likely ensures his spot at Eastlake. So I think there's some really good equity there to be had for Sammy Burns. So a couple of other guys that maybe we haven't expected to be ranked inside the top 10 in the FedEx Cup at this point in the season. 3 names that I want to throw at you: Wyndham Clark, Brian Harmon, obviously the Open Championship there, and Keegan Bradley. Almost all but guaranteed their spot in Eastlake. Pretty cheap in that playoff set. So of those 3, any names stick out for this week that you'd be adding right now, and obviously for the playoff run?
Yeah. Keegan Bradley at a golf course like this, just although the course history is a little sketchy, I kind of think, I took a look and saw what was causing the issues in the past, and it was the putter and the short game.
Yep.
That seems to have resolved itself, evidenced by the win at the Travelers, where he gained almost more strokes putting than he did on approach, and he was scorched earth with the irons again. So he's a pretty solid driver of the golf ball, keeps it in play nicely. I love Keegan Bradley, and I think you should get him for pretty cheap, right? Yeah, 15-ish. So I like it a lot.
Yeah, 25 for the playoff set. Again, a little bit more equity there because of the playoff set and how it's structured. But again, a guy that I think has a ton of upside, especially in this no-cut format. We see with these guys that are great ball strikers that catch their putting stroke for 1 week. Look at what's happened with Lucas Glover since he's gone to the cheating putter, man.
Oh, my God. And Denny on.
I shouldn't
both of them.
I feel bad saying a cheating putter. Whatever. Have your opinion on it if you like golf. I have actually yet to try it. But I don't know if you tried it. I know you're a golfer like me. Have you tried the Anchor long putter at all?
My best part of my game is my putting. So I don't need a new putter.
You ain't going to change it.
I don't need to do that. But if you are struggling, it just seems like take a trip to Hogwarts, go grab a broomstick, and off you go. Like the magic's going to follow you all the way. And I'm pretty sure Glover's, made some good friends with some professors out there, and things are looking good for him, man.
Yeah. Young gun on another same boat kind of guy. When's Luke List going to go to this long putter? He's Aaron Wise was another guy who went to it. You and I would be like, yes. When's Will Zalatoris going to go to it? And he kind of was. He was going to that like arm lock method. Mm-hmm. I mean, just some interesting stuff. Anyways, Keegan Bradley probably should have gone to it, but didn't. And now he instead bows to the putter. And that seems to work for him. So why change it? Again, $25 on that side set for Bradley. I do love it there. Wyndham Clark. He's another guy that specific to Eastlake, where I believe driving distance really does matter. He's shown at golf courses like that this year. He needs to be in your lineup. So a guy that I mentioned off the top, I was able to get a few additions of in the packs. I'm happy about it. He's definitely going to be there ranked 6th right now. Another guy's ranked 4th that I think you and I both agree on, because I heard you mention him already, kind of like, this guy's going to have a big week and I'm getting all my money back. That's Matt Toma. We saw him finally break the major championship kind of curse, right? He put up a good start at the Open Championship, which is a well-suited event for him. I love him here this week. $38 on that playoff set is Homa going into your optimal lineups here this week.
I don't know about optimal.
Okay.
I just like his chances going to Eastlake with the way he's driving the golf ball right now. I am concerned about Max when there's a lot of water involved on a golf course. I think he kind of tends to find it more often than not. But, the iron play has kind of been the issue that I was looking at. He hasn't really been, scorched earth with it like he was to start off the season. But he has been playing really nicely. And I think if you grab him now, potentially just leave him out of your optimals and kind of let him ride into the playoffs, I think he's going to be looking prime for Eastlake for sure.
Yeah, starts have gotten better here each year as his maybe overall play, in essence, on the PGA Tour has gotten better. Obviously, a breakout year this year, ranked 4th in the FedEx Cup, obviously his best season to date. But as you can see, it has gotten better. We're trending towards at least inside the top 30, so to speak, in terms of where we can expect him to finish here. So, all right, as we move down, Brian Harman, obviously, he's got a top 5 here. Let's talk about him for a second. There's got to be a letdown in his game eventually, right?
Right, but I was looking at his name today, and he's popping in my model like perfectly. Course history, recent form, bum. And then it's like, what is his ownership going to be in DFS? And then what's the price like right now? Because it's scary. Like first, hasn't played since the US Open, has he? Or the
Open Championship,
yeah. And it's weird coming back. You've got press obligations still most likely and things like that. But it has been a while since we've seen him. I don't know. He's playing good golf, man.
Yeah.
So
$10 difference between him from Harman to Bradley. I would assume you'd say, no, that's too much. We're going to Keegan Bradley, right?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. From a comparative standpoint, I would agree with there for sure.
Yep. $10 savings. We're talking about a 40% decrease. They're both going to be there at Eastlake. So if you're playing the long game for the utility of these cards, which again, $50K to first, that's what we're looking at. Keegan Bradley gives you that upside in just in his ability to score. Now, again, Brian Harman is a good scorer as well. I would be looking at both of these guys as kind of lower end. Now, Brian Harman, the same price as Colin Morikawa, though. Maybe we get Harman a cool-off week this week if we're playing strategy-wise. Maybe we get a little bit of a cool-off. Maybe people sell off on that, and we look to buy going into next week after Harman hopefully regresses. That's kind of my plan with him. I do like him for Eastlake. Georgia guy, got to be there, but $35, I mean, I can't buy him over Colin Morikawa. I just can't do it.
Yeah, no. But, I think this might be the week that Brian has the best shot at doing well in the playoffs, but outside of the fact that he's just come off a win at a major. So there's a bit of a salt and pepper situation with Harman this week, which is going to be a really interesting situation for you to make a decision on.
Yeah, for sure. So let's now talk about a couple of guys that are in need of a big finish here this week to move on to the next step. Maybe a couple of guys that you want to add into your rosters. Let's start off with Hideki Matsuyama. He comes into the week and he's sitting right around 54 to 56. And based on my projections, he's going to need a top 25. Now, he did miss the cut last week, but I don't know if you followed my tweet this week on Twitter. Was watching the 15th hole. He was middle of the fairway, +1. We all knew that he had to get to at least -2, and that ended up being the cut. Yeah. I'm like, okay, middle of the fairway. We're looking at a birdie here. We get hot on the easier front 9. We're easily through to the weekend, and anything happens. Well, he hits an absolute stinger. Gets about maybe 15 feet off the ground, but he loves it. He's like, ooh, this is what I was trying to do. It's going to get over the bunker, release back to the hole. I'm getting an albatross. That was his reaction. Now, face of the bunker.
I know, that was bad.
Face of the bunker, tries to hit it out, goes in his footprint, tries to hit it out, goes in his footprint again, ends up with triple. Then something similar happens to him again on the front side. And after that, you could clearly see he's like, I'm done with this golf course. I'm out of here. We have a bounce back here, maybe?
Golf is such a weird game, man. And it's probably a good time to buy. Because I think also, -20, a little out of Hideki's realm, whereas -15-ish, -12, I can see Hideki getting to that. I think the irons can carry him to that. And we've seen this course reward ball strikers, right? And he's obviously the epitome of that because he cannot putt. So,
second in 2021 here. That's the thing that I'm looking at is like, well, if there's going to be a spot for a bounce back, it's here. When last week wasn't really him playing bad. It was a series of unfortunate events, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I watched every shot. I sweated every shot because he was on a really good Reignmakers lineup that had Henley, it had Poston, and it had Burns. So it had the upside. It also had Lowry in there. So I don't think it would have won, but it would have definitely come in the top 25 had Matsuyama ended up making the weekend and played okay. So anyways, at $14 in this playoff set, I think he's a great buy low opportunity here this week.
And you know me, I've never been an advocate for Hideki. So now that I'm on, I'm kind of interested in him this week, from a ball striking standpoint. So that's a big endorsement, especially if I'm talking about Hideki, from what I've been doing this season already. So yeah, sign us up for Hideki, baby. Let's go.
Oh boy. Another name that sits around 60th right now. Based on my projections, let's do it here together. We're going to talk about Cam Davis here for a minute. We've got him, let's see, we've got our projected finish here this week at 31st, which would get him up to 55th. So let's put in 20th and see what happens. That's not going to do enough. Cam Davis is going to need somewhere right of the top 15 this week based on this projections. Again, that's what happens in the playoffs. I mean, these guys that are ranked 50th to 70th, it's going to be tough for them to get inside because of the points allocation in the playoffs being double. But do you think Cam Davis might have a top 15 in him this week against a tough field? Pretty good start last week, given that the course is maybe not well suited for his strengths.
Yeah, he's typically shown a propensity to play nicely on these shorter tracks. I think he clubs down pretty nicely for a guy that hits it as far as he does. I don't know. He's just too inconsistent for me. But at this price, I think you can potentially find some good value in the upside of his card because you're most likely not investing far too much in it. And he has the ability to go nuclear. But the volatility there, man, it's scary, right? He can ruin a good lineup for you pretty quickly. So I'm a little concerned about that. But he's played 2 solid rounds now, 2 tournaments in a row. He's played pretty good golf. So we'll see what he can get up to in a third one here, and maybe he's found some form.
I think you kind of put it very nicely in terms of what you're getting and when you invest in him. If you invest right now, $7 is his price, his floor price for the playoff set. If you get a good week from him, you're getting 2 weeks out of the use, which is great because next week's only 50 guys, and the likelihood of him outscoring, regardless of finish position, outscoring them because of his birdie rate is probably very high. So if he ends up putting up a top 15 this week, he's going to help close to an optimal lineup, definitely help you get into a cashing position of this week's contest, and again, likely a next week utility as well. So I would put him in lineups, kind of in that next tier range, maybe as like you got a Max Homa captain. I'd maybe have Cam Davis if you needed a 5th guy to get in that 5th man spot. Again, you were looking for upside in that lineup. We don't expect to win because we don't have, say, Rahm or Rory or anything like that in it. But, Cam Davis was one I wanted to bring up. So any other names that you think is down the board a bit that you'd like to be investing in here this week? JT Poston, but his price is still up there, at least $17 for the playoffs. I'm playing very well right now.
You want to know someone who's really risky and going to be probably very cheap is Sam Ryder. And if you take a peek at what Sam Ryder's got up to on approach the last 2 starts and with the driver, because he went through a phase right shortly after, round about the Genesis and stuff, his driver went off the boil. His driver's fixed itself up and the approach play has been really good lately. And we saw him go through this phase where he was the best putter on the PGA Tour, and that's gone sideways. Now the ball striking's back. If you're looking for a situation where the two kind of merge with each, especially with putting, that can happen at any moment.
Yep. Especially for a guy who's shown us within the last couple of months to do it at the best level. Yep.
The potential's there for the putting, and that can just show up at any minute, where the ball striking's now been there for 2 straight tournaments. I'm taking a gamble on Sam Ryder. I think the upside is going to be incredible. Now he has to finish what?
Yeah, I'm doing it right now.
10, which is brutal. But
it's somewhere in the 13th range, top 13.
Yeah.
But again, same situation as Davis, where we see the possibility of an upside. We catch a spike putting week from one of these guys, and you're going to get a 2-week utility for. I just saw Ryder, which I'll pull back up on the screen. He's going for about 650 right now in the playoff set. Yeah, 668. Yeah. So again, one of those situations where, okay, maybe you just want to check out how this playoff set works. You want to build a team. You want to build a team for, say, $35 that you're going to get at least 7 more events in the fall swing with. Ryder and Davis would be 2 guys I would be putting on there. When they play in the fall, they're going to be among the top 15 in the odds. So you're going to get more utility than just this week if they don't end up making it. I definitely love the call on Ryder. I think that's a really good one there. Another guy, I'm going to bring up the FedEx Cup list again here really quick on our screen. A couple of other guys. Aaron Rye, were we a week early on? Should we just go right back?
Yeah, go Ryder to Rye, baby. Ryder. I like it. I like it a lot.
Yep.
And man, I had a really nice lineup in Elite with Adam Scott last week, and Aaron Rye was the reason it never did well. And I had a 5 for 6 in DFS to finish 5th in a single entry with Aaron Rye in it.
That's a win. Yeah, that's a win.
Oh my God. Yeah. If he makes the freaking cut, we're good. But no, he burnt me. So he's redemption tour for me this week. I love him. Accuracy off the tee, ball striking. He fits his profile for this course.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Let's pull him up. Let's see how he's done here. I think he's played at least once. Let's get him up there quickly. Yeah, 3 times.
Hey.
2 top 26s. Again, I think his form is not indicative of what we saw last week. I think it's been a little bit better over this season. So again, $6 as I just saw on our screen here for our playoff set between Ryder, Rye, and Davis. I mean, we're at like $19 spent, and I can tell you these guys will be among the favorites in the fall swing. They're in that 50 to 70 bucket that need to play to try and get themselves inside of that number to get into the elevated events next year, all that kind of stuff. Guys that I'd be targeting for our 4th and 5th guys in a lineup that may not be more optimal, but we're looking for utility, and those guys are going to give it to you. So great calls there. Love that. Let's go up in maybe the middle range where we expect them to play at least 2 weeks, but maybe could make a run. We've been banging the door of Cameron Young all year. Not a great course for him. Sepp Straka, however, this guy is on a run like no other. A 2nd place here at this golf course too to his making. So Sepp Straka, Cameron Young, which one are you looking at this week, or neither?
I don't mind either. I kind of like them both. I think, we've seen Cam Young is on that brink of potentially breaking through and potentially breaking our hearts, right? Like it's that we're flirting with that fine line of broken love and hatred and whatever. So we'll see what he can get up to, where Sepp Straka has given us a bit more, consistency and upside lately, obviously winning the John Deere that Cam Young was in contention to win too. But yeah, Cam Young, if he makes it to East Lake Manor, man, would that be a course for him to play nicely at too? So
yeah. And that's the thing, is that at $19.75, here's a guy that if he gets going is among the top 10 best players on the PGA Tour, maybe the world. Sure. I mean, that's not like Liv's got that many great guys, but I totally agree. At $19.75, Cam Young guy I'm looking at. Sepp Straka coming in at $21, but again, he's much higher in the FedEx Cup ranking than Cameron Young, so utility likelihood is higher there. So, okay, I think that's a pretty good name. So now let's just go and build our optimal lineup here this week. Just before we got on out of here, this is not the playoff set. This is just 5 guys. Now, of course, if you have these guys in the playoff set, you can certainly choose them. But start off with our captain. We know that maybe this golf course is not perfectly suited for either of our big 3. But I don't think we can go outside of them. So of the big 3, do you want to go with the Rahm with the momentum, or are you sticking with Scotty or Rory here for your captain this week?
I was just looking at Scotty, man, and it's the top 5s. Like if you just look at his top 5 rate, it's nuts. It's just guaranteed almost. Like not guaranteed, but it's like so
certainly darn as close to we've seen since Tiger Woods was doing it, honestly though.
Yeah. And again, the putting not necessarily that big of a contributor to success at this venue. So
So Scotty. Okay. I'm okay going to Rahm if you want to try and get different, or if you don't have a great serial number, let's say our serial combination number of the 3. I am okay trying to go Rahm there to try and differentiate it. Again, the percentage of captain in terms of ownership really doesn't differentiate all that much. So I think if you have him ranked Scotty, Rory, Rahm, that's totally fine. I don't think you can get away from any of the 3. So number 4 and 5, maybe it does get a little tricky because of the golf course maybe being a better suited. You put Cantlay in that 4 spot. Does number 5 get a little bit more difficult for you? Does Colin Morikawa sneak into your mind, or is it straight to Xander or Victor Hovland?
Yeah, give me Victor at this golf
Victor.
course.
Yeah. You think Victor's the guy?
Yeah.
All right, there you have it. I actually have a really good of those 5. I got a really good serial combination, so you might see me put exactly that in there. Let's see how that rolls for us this week. Any other guys that if they don't have a Victor or a Xander that you'd like to put in that first lineup?
Sanjay Im is a very nice, if you don't have nice serial numbers, it's not necessarily super optimal, but he's been trending and he suits this kind of a course very nicely. And then Tyrrell Hatton and Tommy Fleetwood, those 3 guys there in that little range, I think they're going to provide you, especially Tommy. I think he's just really playing a really good 5th spot golf, not captain golf, but like we said, the bridesmaid situation, he finished 10th again at the Open, like we called it. So I like Tommy's consistency. He's most likely going to be flirting with the top of this leaderboard, especially at a course that kind of isn't a birdie fest, but get to -10 easily.
Yeah, it seems like the market is really down on Sung Jae Im, by the way. Just want to mention, looks like, he's ranked 32nd in the FedEx Cup, so that's very close to East Lake. Coming in at 1750 on this playoff set versus 37 and 44 for Fleetwood and Hatton there. So very interesting because Fleetwood's down there. He's 26, so maybe a little bit higher than Sanjay. Still about double the price, though, on that front. That's, interesting. A little bit maybe too high. For me, if I was looking at any of those 3, I would be looking at some JM. So
who's your 5 guy for that lineup we just made?
Yeah,
it's tough, dude. It's interesting. We've got all these good guys, and then
I think the redemption story of Colin Morikawa missing the cut at the Open, having good course history, he's one that I would slide in here in that same scenario. Let's say my top 4 had a total serial number of like 400. I'd be like, all right, I think Morikawa probably gets it done for me. If I put Rahm at captain and Morikawa in that 5, I think we probably get there. So
cool. So real quick question as well. For your serial number total of 400, is that for elite?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of my elite one. The only problem is I don't have a Scheffler elite.
Okay.
So that's probably my rare level. But if we go with Rahm or Rory as a captain there, my elite combination will be pretty low. I've got a Victor Hovland number 1. I've got a Scotty Scheffler rare number 3. So I might be able to put out our optimal lineup with Rory or Rahm at captain. Maybe like a combined serial of 40, Byron. I'm looking pretty good this week in that.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to do that. Patrick Cantlay I have a number 1. Victor I have a number 2. And Scheffler I have a number 4. So I think regardless of what I put Rahm or Rory, I'm probably good there, right?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense for sure, especially in elite. And for rare, what would you say is a solid, like
serial number combination?
150 or 100,
So I've looked at this, and the reason why it's a little bit higher at the rare is because those good rare cards that I just mentioned get played up at elite. So I think if I play all of my good rare cards with all of my more optimal projected elite cards, my total serial number is like 130 at the rare level, of an optimal setting, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that's
I got some good core. Like I've got probably every single guy that we've talked about under 10 as a serial number at the core. So that helps. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just curious because now I think serial numbers make the most sense, right? Like that is when this is the time that a nice serial number really pays off, is in these shorter, smaller fields. So yeah,
for sure, agree. So all right, last thing I will mention before I get on out of here is the Reignmakers football season, basically starting tomorrow. Today is 8/7 when we're doing this. Tomorrow 8/8. Tuesday is the first pack drop. Maybe a little bit expensive for the rare plus levels, but I did want to mention for those that like to play at the core level, the preseason pack that is coming out at $19.99 is a really good value. The CSV, I'll have a full breakdown of what you can expect to see in those packs tomorrow morning on the Lucky Trader site, so luckytrader.com. So that is going to do it here for our FedEx St. Jude Championship, not Classic or whatever I said before. It's the FedEx St. Jude Championship now. That is our preview for that. We will be back next week for the BMW Championship. So Byron, find him on Twitter at the Model Maniac. Thanks so much for joining again this week, buddy. I appreciate it. Good luck. Continue the hot streak this week. I'm sorry if it got a little choppy at the end. I'm not sure what happened to my internet, but I think we're okay here until the end. So until next time, everybody, good luck. We'll see you on the other side. Cheers.